Hi, this is Mike Seifert. Today we're talking about 7 tips to help you land that job and to impress the possible employer that you're going to work for. So let's begin. So today we're going more towards the employment side. A lot of the videos I talk about go towards more the entrepreneur and the business owner. Today we're going to talk about employees and what to do. So tip number 1, resume errors. And so I'm an employer and I go through a lot of resumes on a daily basis, especially if we're looking to hire somebody. And some of the things I see on there that really turn me off when I look at a resume, if there's any spelling errors, especially simple wording or simple things, punctuation, not so much, but if there's a spelling error, right off the bat, I tend to cancel that resume right out. Because number one, what that says about the person is they're not detailed oriented and they just are not paying attention. And so if they have spelling errors on their resume, that tells me that on the job, they might miss something that's a minor detail that could be very important and could be devastating in some cases on the job if something's missed that's minor or that they may think is minor but really isn't. So tip number 1, make sure that your resume is in tip-top shape. You do have good punctuation, but also no spelling errors and things are grammatically correct because that's very important. Tip number 2, listing all your job experiences on a resume. I can't tell you enough. If somebody is looking for a long-term employee, somebody that they want at the company for more than 6 months, I'm saying like 5 years out, employers tend to look at the job history. If you are somebody that had 10 different jobs in the last 5 years, do not list all of your jobs on there. Some people think that by listing 10 or 15 jobs that this counts as experience. What this says is that you can't stay at a job for more than a year, more than 6 months. I've seen resumes where they were at 3 different jobs for like 2 to 3 months apiece. And when I'm searching for an employee, I don't want somebody that I'm going to have to train for 30, 40 days, maybe 2 months, and then all of a sudden I have to go back and they got to be fired or they quit because their resume says their average job stay is 6 months to a year, or sometimes 2 or 3 months. So pick a few jobs that make sense in chronological order, but maybe jobs that you've been there for at least a couple years on, 2, 3 years. If you've been on a job you were on a job for 10 years, and you stayed on a temporary job for just a year or 8 months or something, put that down in your resume. Just say that temporary employment. Having 100 jobs does not show experience. It shows that, a person unfortunately may be unstable, that they're not taking a job seriously, that they don't like to stay at a job for a long time. They're getting bored. And so employers don't want to take their resources and train and take a ton of time with somebody just to have them quit within 8 months or a year. So that's very important. Don't list tip number 2, don't list 10 or 15 jobs on your resume, especially if they're 6 months to a year apiece. At the most, maybe 2 or 3 jobs is what you want on your resume. And let it make sense. It's got to run. It has to flow month to month. If you have a big gap in there, that's a question that an employer is going to have. Why is there a big gap in your employment history? Is there, if you were sick, that's one thing. If it's just because you didn't want to work for a year, and they're going to ask you, well, what? I noticed there's a gap. What happened between the year 2017 and 2018 where you don't have a job? So that's important. Tip number 3, always be professional. I can't stress this enough. If an employer calls you on the phone or emails you back, be professional. You don't want to be necessarily emailing back at like 8, 9, at 10 o'clock at night, midnight. That looks like you're unstable. It looks like you're up all night and that you're not, in the right mindset. Don't respond to emails at like midnight. Wait till the morning. Wait till 9, 10 o'clock. Wait till the afternoon. So always be professional. Responding to emails in a professional manner. Thank you for the opportunity. I am interested in the position. Is there a time that we can chat? Or I would love to come down and look at, the office, or I'd like to check out the company. So always be professional, especially if someone calls you on the phone. Don't have noises in the background. Don't have dogs barking. This is a turnoff for employers. If you're on the phone with an employer and you have people in the background, little kids yelling, but dogs barking, noises, this tells the employer that you're not giving them the full respect on the phone, and it scares people. It scares employers, frankly. If you don't have enough courtesy to walk out of the room, or not pick up the phone when there's noise in the background, wait. Go into the other room, shut the door. If this is your job and your career you're talking about here. So make sure there's no noises or weird things going on in the background. That is a big turnoff for employers during a initial phone call or phone interview. Number 4, research the company that you're going to interview with. Research the company you're going to interview with. Many times I've had people where I ask them, have you researched our company? And they tell me, no, I haven't researched it yet, or I haven't researched it. That, to me, that's a big red flag. If you don't at least research our company to find out what we do here, that tells me you don't have interest in the company, number 1. Number 2, it just says that I don't really care. It's not a big deal to me. I want an employee to know about the company, to know where we're located, to know our culture, to know who we are, what we do, the functions over here. If an possible employee says, hey, yeah, I researched it. Looks like I enjoyed some of your videos, or I make some videos. Obviously, if they looked at them, that helps. Or I looked at your website and I noticed that, you guys are a growing company. I noticed that, you do have a need for this position. It looks like you have a lot of, whatever it may be. I don't know a good example here, but you want to research the company, reviews on the company. So when an employer like myself says, hey, did you research our company? Have you had a chance to take a look at our website? The answer I want to hear is, oh yeah, absolutely. I looked at the website. It looks great. And I did some research on the company. It makes an employer feel very good when that happens. Number 5, be on time. I can't stress this enough. If you are late, it's a bad sign. Don't call in, before the job interview and say, I have to reschedule. That's a bad sign. Calling in before you have your first interview that you're sick or you can't make it, you're not going to get a second interview with most professional companies. That scares employers. If anything, show up 15 to 20 minutes early to a job interview. That's going to impress the employer. Hey, they're here on time. It shows initiative. It shows self-starter potential. It shows a lot. Hey, I'm here on time, or I'm here at least within 10 minutes of the start time. If you're there right at 1 o'clock, like say if it's 1 o'clock your interview, I would get there at least 5:02. I wouldn't wait till right at 1. Being early is always better than being 5 minutes late. There's no excuse. It doesn't matter. Traffic, this, that, for all the excuses during business. If you're being relied upon to run an office or to run something, it doesn't matter the excuse. It has to get done. If you mess up, the customer's going to leave and we're going to lose revenue for the company. So, number 6, appearance. If anything, if you take anything out of this, please make sure that when you go on a job interview, you're dressed appropriately, depending on the job. You don't want to overdress and you don't want to underdress. So if it's some type of industrial related job, or maybe it's a factory job, or you're running high-lows, or you're whatever it may be, you don't have to have a suit on to go for those jobs. But if you're going to work in like the accounting field, the financial field, real estate, mortgage, things of that nature, anything that's basically white collar versus blue collar, even blue collar, you want to look professional, but you don't want to have a big suit on. If you're going to work a high-low, you want to be neat, you want to be professional, but it would be overkill to wear a $3,000 suit for a job that's going to enable you to work in the factory. Now again, if you're going to work at like a place that's office friendly, that's always like a doctor's office, things of that nature, maybe you don't have to wear a suit. Maybe you wear a dress shirt like I am right now, a dress shirt, dress pants. My point is just have a clean appearance and be professional at all times. The number 7 in our last tip, when you're on the interview, just listen to what the employer is asking and saying. Just listen. At the end of the interview, ask strategic questions. Don't be so much focused on your pay every second. Don't demand more pay right away. Find out what the job's about. See what's going on. And if the employer likes you and calls you for a second interview, at that point, on a second interview, we normally do 2 interviews, a first interview and a second interview. On the second interview, you're 80 to 90% chance of getting hired, if not 100%. Then you can start negotiating about pay and talking about things. I've had a lot of people interview, and on the first interview, I don't even know who you are. I don't know anything about you hardly except for your resume. And someone's telling me instead of, our standard rate, they want $5, $6, $7 more per hour more than what we already talked about and offered on our job ads. That's a no-no. You're not going to get a call back. Know what the job pays. If you're going down to a $25,000, $30,000 job, or if you're going to a $100,000 job, understand that, if the job pays between 100 and 130, for example, and you're really good at your job and you're awesome and you can do this, then negotiate the higher rate. If you're new into a field, you can't negotiate the top rates. You have to know where you stand. So during the interview process, listen, ask good questions, but don't start negotiating pay on the first interview. Wait till the second interview to talk about your skill level, where you stand, because at that point, the employer can compare you between the other candidates for the job. And if you have better skills, better education, and you're more qualified, okay, then, if it's between you and one other person, then start negotiating at that point. Say, hey, I don't know, you have another person that you're, talking to right now. I'm not sure where they land compared to myself, but I do know that I do have a good education. I have this, this, and this, and I'm, coming down to you to see if I can negotiate and get closer to the $130,000 mark instead of your $100,000 starting salary. So, those are just some quick tips on how to impress a possible employer. And those are the 7 tips. So thank you for watching and take care. Have a great day.